Welcome everyone to the executive stage at DSC Europe 23. My name is Danica Marinkovic and I will be your host for the next 2 days. I would like to welcome you on the behalf of the organizing team at DSC Europe 23 in partnership with DD Inc. We are happy that you are joining us at the biggest AI event in Europe. I would also like to use this opportunity to thank our partners, Ananas Gold, Rivian, the World Bank, Bosch, and Roche, without whom this conference would not be possible. I would like to welcome Damjan Damjanovic to the stage to share with us a few welcoming words.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming so early in the morning. I know it's a pain in the ass. They never listen to me. I always tell them to start at about 10, 11, because that's that health, tech, med, bio community is not working their brains before 10, and I deeply understand that as a patient. So I hope you like the new venue. We'll change a little bit since the last year. I think it has more space, more oxygen. I hope you're going to have a great day today and tomorrow. First time 2 days. They didn't make all my wishes come through. A little more forums, a little more discussions, but a lot of networking, and I hope you're going to enjoy in that. I know that you're going to have a blast with Dimitrios this morning, and I wish you great 2 days, and thank you for supporting us and making this better conference each year. Thanks a lot.
Hi, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Miloš Mirković. I'm from the Data Science Europe side of organizing DigiHealth. As Damjan said, last year was our first conference. It lasted 1 day. I think it was a major success. We've met a lot of people, talked a lot about a lot of important stuff. This year, we've decided to step it up a notch, do 2 days, and bring even more renowned speakers who we will be have the pleasure of listening to today and tomorrow. I don't want to take up too much of the time. I would like to give back the mic to our host today and let Dimitrios start his keynote. So thank you very much and hope you have a great conference.
Without further ado, I would like to introduce to you the first keynote speaker, Dimitrios Kalogeropoulos, a chief executive at Global Health and Digital Innovation Foundation. He has worked as an expert with the World Bank, the World Health Organization, European Commission, and UNICEF's Digital Health Center of Excellence. He has a PhD in artificial intelligence in medicine. Learning applications of AI have the power to utilize data to identify effective treatments, accelerate innovation, and support decisions in clinical settings. Accelerating translational biomedical research and knowledge discovery is the most economically and socially valuable of all the uses of the AI tools available. Dimitrios, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everyone. I was asked if I want a microphone or this thing, because this apparently helps the hands move easier, so you're going to see a lot of hand movement today. Thank you for having me here, to the organizers. It's a great pleasure, and to you for attending. So what I want to talk to you today about is a sustainable future for open learning AI in healthcare. And this is really a great opportunity for me to present this subject here, because most likely you probably don't know that in 20 years ago, exactly in 2003, I started developing together with the European Commission and the medical faculty and Batut the first open innovation ecosystem here in Belgrade. So it's now 20 years later, and for me it's a very good opportunity to present here in Belgrade, where we've developed the first ecosystem, what has come of it, and where we're standing today and where we need to go. So let me start by saying what the risks are with open learning AI. The word open, first of all, is something I would like to go through today. So, we use the word open for artificial intelligence in the sense that it's the code that is behind artificial intelligence is not proprietary and not hidden, but open learning AI, so the ability of artificial intelligence to move forward in an ecosystem, in an environment of different collaborators, is far more important than having access to the code. So when we're talking about open technologies, it's very important that we make it clear that they are part of the social fabric of life. So clearly we need to make them be a social part of life, a part of social life. And how do we do that? We need to remove, first of all the risks. And what are they? There's plenty of them. First of all, artificial intelligence in healthcare can restrict, discriminate, and exclude patients from treatment options. For example, in randomized clinical trials, we can have inclusion and exclusion criteria that keep a certain group of patients outside. We saw that a lot during COVID, where vaccines were tested, for example, not with pregnant women, because that was high risk, but that meant we knew nothing about those patients and how they would react to the use of a vaccine. And that was a very important subject. So, with artificial intelligence and with any technology, one thing that we need to make sure that we keep in mind is how not to exclude patients from technologies, products, and services. The other risk is that artificial intelligence may be the perpetrator in privacy and security attacks. Artificial intelligence is very good at doing things. If it starts attacking your privacy, it's going to do it much better than a human can do it. The third risk is deep fakes, the manipulation of society, adversarial fakes, and data poisoning and collateral damage as in exclusion. So the risk that someone will use artificial intelligence to take revenge for organizations and institutions using your data and start manipulating certain sources of data in order to make your models, your AI models, behave in ways that you don't want them to behave. I don't know how many of these risks exist. I was recently in a conference talking about digital sovereignty. There are many countries out there that are very concerned about digital sovereignty and how artificial intelligence can be used to cause problems with the way government is functioning. The threat to sovereign economies, your ability to control the digital economy. So basically, if you have artificial intelligence models which are developed in China, how do they affect the economy in Europe, in Serbia, in the United Kingdom, or wherever? Misuse and power concentration is another. Finally, climate impact. So I'm in 2 or 3 groups that are studying the issue of climate impact in the United States and globally, and we are quite concerned about what artificial intelligence and LLMs are going to do in that respect, because it's not an issue that we seem to be so interested in addressing. Now, the point I'm trying to make with all these risks is not start the morning off on a negative keynote, but the point I'm trying to make is that surprisingly behind all these risks lies the issue of underdeveloped, unvalidated, and misappropriated data assets. So it's all about data, really, at the end of the day. And it's very interesting because when I said that we were doing this here in Belgrade 20 years ago, my point then was that we have to make sure that the data ecosystem is developed enough to support any kind of innovation on top of it. And if we do that, then everything's going to be fine. And 20 years down the line, we still have the same problem. Well, if we didn't, my life wouldn't be interesting, I suppose. I would have solved the problem then. I would have nothing to do moving on. So what is the state of the art right now? And then let's take 2 steps back to start talking about ecosystems. We have made significant progress from 2003 to 2023. We have massive progress, but where has it been? So first of all, artificial intelligence holds important potential for meaningful healthcare innovation, but suffers a poor adoption ecosystem. So this is a point we need to keep at the back of our minds, particularly in healthcare. So there are a lot of radiology, for example, accounts for 70% of AI approvals by the FDA as medical devices. And I worked for 2 years together with GE Healthcare in something called the Edison Accelerator. And what we were doing is we were mentoring and coaching startups globally that would develop artificial intelligence for radiology, and this was, a mechanism facilitated by GE Healthcare to help bright young ideas and people, startups, to get the systems into the commercialization phase. So there's a lot of ideas out there being cleared by FDA. For example, in October 2023, the update had included 155 new pre-market notifications for radiology. It's, artificial intelligence makes a lot of progress in radiology because it's very good at discovering patterns. So radiology is about patterns, so, it's a fantastic field, but there's a bit of a problem there. So there are countless research projects out there as well, but yet in 2020, there was a systematic review conducted by some fairly famous people in this business of systematic reviews, where they looked at more than 8,000 supervised deep learning studies, and the results they came up with are very interesting. So only 10 of those studies were RCTs. You can imagine that without a randomized control trial, the gold standard of evaluating the safety and performance of any kind of innovation in healthcare, you go nowhere near patients, right? We don't want that anyway. So only 10 of them, 8,000 were RCTs. 8 were ongoing, 9 were in China, 1 in the US. I followed up with the ongoing studies, and I couldn't find them anywhere. Even the registered one with clinicaltrials.gov. 81 were retrospective, non-randomized clinical trials. Only 9 of them were prospective. Now, retrospective studies, for those of you that come from the sort of healthcare data science side, and medical doctors here will know that, they're a bit risky in terms of the results they produce. And just 6 of those prospective studies were real-world clinical setting studies. So clearly we have an issue with high-quality studies that is lacking. And what does that tell us in terms of innovation? What does it tell us about artificial intelligence in healthcare and the future of artificial intelligence in healthcare? Because if we have all those efforts and we have all those ideas and we have all that money that supports the ideas, and those ideas never get to the patient or the doctor because both need support, then we have an issue. So the 2 steps back I was going to take before I go forward again are about the path to sustainable adoption, and one of them is focus, the other one is actions. So first of all, the gatekeeper to adoption of artificial intelligence in clinical settings are clinical trials. I said I was going to move my hands, I don't actually, I move myself. Are clinical trials. I already said that a minute ago, but we never get to clinical trials, as we saw from the review a minute ago. Why is that? So first of all, clinical value needs to be proven together with safety, and that's not necessarily from distal outcomes. For example, improving overall survival in cancer patients or cancer survivors. It should instead come from proving proximal outcomes, and this is what really matters. And this is a movement, this is a new thing which is developing now. So people are realizing that we need to keep it simple and we need to be focused and we need to be more realistic, more targeted in the way that we use artificial intelligence. There's a reason for this, but it also works with the medical community. So for example, we can try improving patient satisfaction and engagement or compliance, which translate improvements in set distal outcomes in the longer term. But, baby steps. Artificial intelligence needs baby steps. We can't just wake up and do the sort of ChatGPT thing. And there's a reason for that as well. There's a strategy behind how LLMs came about, historically speaking. So proving safety toward proximal outcomes depends on the claim. A hard-to-prove claim is expert systems. Those of you who have been in artificial intelligence long enough know that that's the grandparents of current artificial intelligence. So what are expert systems? Expert systems are heuristic systems that try to mimic the diagnostic capability of expert clinicians. Well, it's a good thing we gave up on that, because it would probably take us forever to prove this point, because it's a philosophical point. It's not a matter of whether intelligence can be copied or not. A feasible claim might be a reduction in recalls of breast cancer screens or missed cancer with AI as double reader of mammography. Now, I recently read a study of this, which is producing fantastic results because clinicians get very tired. So they look at mammographies, they screen cancer, they often miss cancer. Sometimes, they order recalls because they're not certain about the results. And this causes a lot of waste of resources, time, doctors getting very tired. Now, that sounds a really good way to help the healthcare provider community. Also, with focused claims, methods exist for internal validation of learning models in downstream tasks with better access to better data. This is a point I want to make today. Now, agility is required in the adoption ecosystem to merge health technology assessment with external validation and explainable AI. So if we focus, basically what I'm trying to say, and I'm going to present some more detail about this, is that we can easily validate the claims a lot more easily than we can validate clinical distal outcomes, proving that we are as good as expert clinicians, for example. And we can insert that process into current health technology assessment functions in ministries, in academia, in projects, wherever that exists. So the second path to sustainable adoption point I want to make before moving forward is actions. Now, these come from my experience, and not connected to what I said so far, but talking to people from different stakeholder groups about what we need to make progress, and this is not just about artificial intelligence, but artificial intelligence is a very good example, is what steps we need to take to go forward. I get the following replies, the following messages. First of all, we have academia and industry. So the diagram you're looking at is the classic triple, now quintuple innovation model for knowledge development and collaboration. So it consists of 5 parts, that's hence quintuple: the government, business, industry, academia, the environment, and civil society. And the idea is that all 3 stakeholder groups need to collaborate very tightly for innovation to be successful. So when I talk to academia or the industry, what I get as a response is, you need to change your research question. And this is something I heard so many times from people from FDA or different other regulatory authorities who say, for pre-market authorization, don't come to me with something which is really vague. I mean, if any of you have any teaching experience, you probably know that, when the students get lost, you tell them, hey, listen, make your target really simple and then come back. And this is also a very important point in regulation, for example, with drugs. You need to be able to have simple targets. You need to be able to have specific biomarkers that you want to move the needle with, so that you can say, hey, it's worth investing more money here. The second group is government, and there are 2 actions that need to be taken there. One is drive innovation in the medical device clinical trials industry. For example, if you monitor what's happening in the world, the OSONZ review recommendations in the United Kingdom were yesterday approved by Her Majesty's government. And this is a huge development, because what he suggested in many different ways is that the clinical trial system needs to be improved, modernized, and embedded into the healthcare process. This is just the beginning, but it's a very important step forward. In the United States, we have the continual learning regulatory policy, so this is a way to have artificial intelligence that keep learning. So we need to make those changes at the level of government and regulation. In Europe, things are not that good, because you probably also heard that the European Artificial Intelligence Act hit a hard wall on the 10th of this month, so this is a few days ago, when during the trilogues a number of countries walked out in disagreement to provisions of Artificial Intelligence Act regarding large language models, which is the future of artificial intelligence. So if we don't agree with that, then we have a problem. So as far as the quintuple helix collaboration is concerned, the issue here we need to fix is real-world data, and I'm going to try to go quickly through that. One is to expose unquantified hidden biases and confounders with standards and explainable AI. Every single study out there looks at an association between patient data and some kind of intervention logic. And those models, in artificial intelligence, is called model fitting. They don't work because they're based on relationships we assume are correct, and more often than not, they're not correct. So we're looking at data that points to a person that is white. And then we try to fit the model, and then it doesn't fit, because the data was pointing to a person that was black. And it's as simple as that, So that is one issue. We need to find a real-world data, because if we're trying to modernize the clinical trials environment, how are we going to do that if we don't stop having to organize studies that take 10 years to conduct, to mobilize thousands of patients, or at least hundreds of patients, to get them involved in an experiment, the results of which are doubted. We don't know if it's going to be successful or not. And, we keep having these translation failures, so, that we pay for in terms of quality of life and patient outcomes in the longer term when we could be curing disease. The second one is to adopt a systems medicine approach to knowledge, and I'm going to come back to this in a minute. Cascade symbol target AIs to avoid bias variance translation chasms. This is the translation failure I talked about just now. Innovate for patient centricity. Scale with inclusion and equity for population representation. So make sure that your models include populations that are important for the treatments you're designing, digital or biochemical. Expand precision medicine with temporal disease features and guarantee ecological validity. And this is really important because it's about those associations between knowledge and data. So collaborate for scale and scope is an important part of the actions going forward. So what is ecological validity? I was talking to a colleague the other day, a data scientist, in fact, who is involved in a very large research project in the United Kingdom at Leeds University. And she told me, it really annoys me because whenever you mention ecology in experiments, people think it's about the environment. Well, it's not. So ecological validity is something that a lot of experiments in healthcare suffer from, and it's about the external validity of an experiment concerning the reproducibility and generalizability of the results. So basically, we need to focus on whether behaviors or outcomes observed in a study can occur in real-world settings. Now, this is something we also saw with COVID and the vaccines, and the need of all those manufacturers to prove that the vaccines were working in a population. Well, that didn't go down very well, and we all know that the data used from Israel came in very handy in subsequent experiments in the United States, because somehow we needed to know. We had an opportunity to prove if the technology worked or not. We needed to know if it did. Otherwise, if the vaccines were to be used in a future occasion, we wouldn't be able to do that. So ecological validity is about examining whether the experimental conditions and assumptions in a study mirror the complexity and dynamics of the natural environment being investigated. And surprise, surprise, we don't have any of this. None, zero. Everything we do now is an experiment in vitro, in silico. If it is about technology, we have no idea how anything would scale in a real-world environment. Everybody knows that. But this is how the world works right now, yeah? And who's happy with that? Can I see hands? Who's happy with this idea of obsolete technology? Anyone happy? No? Nobody? I didn't ask you to raise hands if you're unhappy because, I just wanted to, catch you in the moment of being dazed with this idea. Anyway, so high ecological validity suggests that the results of studies are at least reproducible and likely to be applicable and generalizable to real-world situations. There was a lot of knowledge mobilization during COVID-19. It took place in the United Kingdom, it took place in China. There were a lot of experiments, a lot of knowledge graphs designed and phenotyping efforts to collect data from different sources to prove, to develop some kind of clinical epidemiology around COVID. None of it succeeded because of ecological validity. The person-level validity, the reality of the data was simply not right. And so the experiments were abandoned. So let's go back to the present. Where are we now? What's the ground we have covered? And in a minute, what we need to cover to go forward. So generative AI and large language models point to a sustainable path with a new productivity paradigm. In my opinion, from what I've seen until now, and a lot of predictions I made came true, so I feel confident this is the case, but hey, this is why we're here today. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe what I've seen from deep learning, LLMs, so an improved version of deep learning, and improved technology, is that we have a new productivity paradigm. Nothing else. Everything else is old, okay? Transformers are old as well. And we've also seen that LLMs can scale to manage complex semantics, which is really important as well, yeah? So that diagram plus the productivity model is what LLMs do. So here on the left, you have a classic bias variance training risk diagram. So it basically tells you that whatever you do, you're lost. Yeah? Because if you try to adjust bias and variance, you will either underfit or overfit a model. You will never get the model right. Of course, how can you get a model right in real life? I mean, you know, a straight line, trying to predict what we do. We wake up in the morning and we decide to drink tea instead of coffee all of a sudden, you know, and nothing can be fit to that model. But then we have LLMs, and they offer this. At least this is the observation, and there's the study that produced this down here, that we don't have this a model interpolation threshold anymore, and that once we start over-parameterizing, so we start creating large language models, we have this fantastic ability, no friction, no gravity. I don't believe this for a minute, but it does give us an opportunity. Look, it's going to do the same. It's going to go up again, and then there's going to be another meta cycle to make the LLMs more intelligent, which is okay, but what does it give us? It gives us an opportunity to grab this new productivity paradigm and use it to produce social innovation. Okay? Basically to change the system to our benefit, if we can do that. Yeah. So the driver that brought me here this morning was saying how we keep coming under the system and we keep losing our freedom and our ability to control our destinies. And look, this is a really important thing, because if we become unhappy, nothing works. Okay. Now, I don't think technology is going to put us under. I think technology will be used to give us more power, but it's up to us how we use the technology to have that power and harness that power to our advantage. So now, going back to data science, since it's a data science conference, I heard it about 20 times today, I think, yesterday. What I'm trying to present today as a way to a paradigm to go forward, and what LLMs do, in my opinion, in healthcare, of course, is that instead of using, we have two innovation chasms. One of them is verifying a model in silico, so proving that it fits the data in the experiment. The second chasm is clinical validation, so producing meaningful innovation in a specified population. This is the real life thing I was talking about. Now, we have a massive problem because we don't have translation bridges. So we're trying to get here, but from there. So we're very good at this. Massive progress. Breast cancer detection learning using curated retrospective study data. Great. I mean, it works really well. Then we put that experiment in real life. We can have an RCT with 10, 20 patients trying to prove a drug works, and we realize it doesn't work. And then, back to the beginning. Why? Because we don't have this translation bridge. We need to find a way in which we can accelerate the process and get it into real life so that we can safely, I'm not talking about experimenting on people and harming people. We need to make sure that none of that changes. But how do we do that? And what I'm claiming is that a new patient-centric adaptive clinical trial system is needed for that, and it relies on data being accessible. But it's a little bit difficult to see the point, and this is what I'm trying to demonstrate in this diagram. So we have classic data science on the left, and we have, you've seen this a million times, and we try to fit the model I was talking about earlier. You know how many funny diagrams I've seen? I've seen the going round, and I've seen the different shapes, and cats and dogs being fitted to the dots. I've seen all of them. And, this is one I tried to make myself, not very imaginative. It wasn't one of my qualities, I think, art. But let's have a look at the information model standard side. So let's quit with math. Let's try to make it more logical, the dumb people approach, which makes me feel more comfortable sometimes. So look, let's make circles, and those circles identify them as someone, and then circles that don't fit the model. So look, I found if in reality this belonged to one entity, 1, 2, 3, 4, they seem to fit this model, that doesn't. So maybe that's the wrong cohort, that's the wrong group of patients. And if I can give them names in the cohorts, I can have Yelena, Sarah, Salim, Norma, Dimitrios. Look, I'm identifying them, I can delete the names. Let's not get paranoid about whether this is, insulting anybody's right to privacy. But at least, I can maintain that ecological person-level validity. And this is about the data poisoning attacks. This is what people do. They grab somebody's data and they start changing the associations. But if we know whose data it is, then we can fix the problem They're trying to do this now with unlearning AI, so they discover what points were corrupted, remove them from data model fitting in artificial intelligence so they can fix the models. But at the end of the day, it's as simple as identifying what belongs to who. And the second point is the clinical trials industry that uses that data. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about clinical trials and how this is a gatekeeper to social innovation. So if we want to change the world and produce permanent change, which technically is called social innovation, then how do we do that? We have to go through the clinical trials industry. This is the gatekeeper. Now, look, current global clinical trials market is 50 billion annually. Is that a lot of money or not? I don't know. I've lost measure, sort of, I don't know what is a lot and what isn't nowadays, to be honest with you. But it looks like a reasonable amount to use to improve the patient systems. Now, that includes pharmaceutical, biotechnology companies, medical device companies, and academic institutes. It's really important because this is not just the pharma industry, okay? This is the whole expanding. So this could well be 200 billion in a couple of years. This is the point I'm trying to make. Now, roughly 3.5% of the global pharmaceutical market revenue is that amount, okay? So about 521 billion is currently, look how it's exploding. And this does not include the data from COVID. If we included as it is for COVID, that would have gone way up. So now you tell me 3.5%. It's a production line. Let's think it's we're manufacturing cars and clinical trials are the engine. Would you invest 3.5%? I wouldn't. I would expect this figure to be much bigger, higher. And let's look at more numbers. 20% of that is data curation. And this is one of the innovation delivery stages. And when it comes to artificial intelligence, 80%, a staggering 80% of the budget is about data curation. So this is about getting the data together, cooking, throwing salt and pepper, a bit of, hot sauce perhaps, and coming up with something that fits the industry. Well, I don't know. I mean, would you invest in that? Something that has 80% loss from the get-go? I wouldn't. That's not a very good business. But this is where we're at now. So, quality of care consensus conferences. I was one for advanced breast cancer in Lisbon 2 weeks ago. Every single scientist in that conference said, we don't have good research data. Oops. So who's helping them? They're curing patients with advanced metastatic breast cancer. They should have access to data, but they don't. Yet we generate so much of it, it has become a climate issue. So the three groups are participating have the same problem. So what's happening? There's a bit of a problem there. I don't know if you see the problem the same way I see it. So how is generative AI social innovation movement? What is social innovation and what's missing? Social innovation, look at this fantastic diagram here. There's one, the left side is instrumental technocratic innovation, democratic innovation, institutional structural innovation. As we go up and we become change for a collective group rather than just a lone hero innovation, we increase our ability to participate, to create solutions, to empower for social value people and change the system, have institutional reform, and change the way things are done. So this is what we actually refer to when we say healthcare systems transformation. It's about social innovation. So what does social innovation do, and why does ChatGPT help us in healthcare to produce that social innovation? So it resists ephemeral reductionist siloed view to innovation in favor of scalable transformational change, sustainable health innovation that drives systemic changes with equity and inclusion. Sounds wonderful, doesn't it? Well, we should have had this 10 years ago, I think, already. But look, we have a very good opportunity right now. It provides a solution to wicked problems. So what is a wicked problem? This is what generative AI has achieved. A wicked problem is how do we get people involved in technology when we don't give them enough of a societal structure to get involved? So ChatGPT came, nothing was done. Internet, the tools we used before, suddenly everyone is part of this revolution. So it has become a social innovation tool, and they're trying to make it a social innovation tool for healthcare. It hasn't succeeded. It won't succeed unless we make it succeed, but the movement is there. So we're talking about solutions for which the value created accrues primarily to society rather than individuals. Yeah? And this is not about idealism or romanticism. It's about the only way in which we can actually go forward. And democratic institutional voids are exploited in social innovation to allow new forms of participation by a range of actors with complementary objectives, leading to collaborative innovation ecosystems. So believe it or not, this is what we tried to do here in Belgrade 20 years ago. You can imagine the reaction of different people involved. Me, here in 2003, talking about this? No, I don't think so. Well, I'm going to give it another shot now. So what's missing? What's missing is an artificial intelligence knowledge ecosystem. Look at 3 types of knowledge, yeah? And I'm going to accelerate now because time is running out. So this is the old knowledge ecosystem, correspondence. Something corresponds with something else. That was the prevalent paradigm for knowledge for 30 years, and it's called evidence-based medicine, EBM. The second wave of knowledge ecosystem is coherence, and it started in during COVID-19, when knowledge started being mobilized for the first time in history to produce clinical epidemiology near real time so that we know what's happening to us because of COVID. Amazing, huh? And the third wave will be precision. I estimate it will be around 2030 that it will start. There's a study in Germany that was conducted, a Delphi study, where experts were asked to predict this, and they said 2030. I think that prediction is more or less correct. So evidence-based medicine, what is it? Coherence, correspondence knowledge. It says, studies of antibiotics for bronchitis fail to show a benefit for most patients. Well, if they do, then why on earth would I take antibiotics for bronchitis? All the evidence is there. You know, I did a study, and so these are produced with RCTs, peer-reviewed journals, gold standards, guidelines, old-school expert heuristic systems. It tells you this is the truth. You have to believe that. Well, there's a bit of a problem there, but you know, it has worked until now. The problem is we have no ecosystems, we have no liquidity, no agility. We cannot produce social innovation with that kind of knowledge. The second wave, and this is the revolution that we're going through, is coherence. And what that tells us, this is about learning, yeah? It tells us since bronchitis involves infection of the airways in the lungs, antibiotics should help. Okay, it should, but it doesn't. And this is the problem with ChatGPT. You see? And we have to go through that. Deep learning, knowledge graphs, large language models, generative AI, it's going to happen, you know. This is kind of a puberty thing. It will, you know, all of us are going to go through it, and generative AI will go through it. And the target is to get here to precision medicine and personalized medicine, which says that studies of antibiotics for bronchitis fail to show a benefit for most patients apart from this cohort group profile provided treatment plan X is followed. So we can exclude from the general rule specific patients that can benefit. And this was an issue because, you know, suddenly doctors discovered that COVID was what is it called, a bacteriophagy, and it would grow in people's stomach and intestines, because that's where the bacteria were, and the virus would attack the bacteria and colonize, and then it would go to the bloodstream through that avenue, and that's why people who would take antibiotics accidentally, although they were not, you know, indicated for that purpose, would benefit because it would kill the bacteria that were colonized with COVID-19. Actually, I was one of those experiments. Accidentally, a doctor told me what happened because I was cured all of a sudden taking antibiotics. So you see, this revolution is really important, okay? We need to go the precision way. And this is called systems medicine. Cycles of it will keep improving the knowledge we get. And this is the benefit of artificial intelligence. I'm going to skip through this. There are 2 claims we need to support. One of them is knowledge mobilization, reciprocity, recycling claim. And basically what this says, that if we in the ecosystem get different actors, digital and human, to collaborate, we start piling up all the knowledge and accelerate that knowledge ecosystem that gives us the ability to produce safer and faster artificial intelligence. You can see this is a cycle, yeah? Applications of systems or P4, personalized, preventive, and participatory medicine, gives us multi-stakeholder collaboration, so different doctors being able to work together on a common data set. That means cross-validation for artificial intelligence, knowledge integration, and the circle repeats for validated artificial intelligence. And the second claim is that telehealth value capture and recycling should take place because if we insist on electronic health records and the current digital technologies we have, we're going to keep out of our data sets all those populations that are necessary for diversity, for equity and inclusion. So we're going to keep designing drugs for patients that exclude entire communities and entire populations. So advancing artificial intelligence with telehealth is important because we need to include more patients, providers, and more and better AI. That means reaching out to populations, differentiating on their needs, and the circle repeats. So what's the future? Look, I showed this diagram to this advanced breast cancer conference, and people were not happy because everybody was saying, oh, so you want to replace us? Well, you know, you tell me, who on earth wants to systematically observe and review cancer patient outcomes to optimize lines of multimodal therapy? This is a very important function, yeah? Lines of treatment. Artificial intelligence has proven to be very good at it. I don't think a doctor wants to do this. When you ask them, they say, no, 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 please, no, I don't want to. But then they feel threatened that they're going to lose their jobs. So, you know, this is the sort of conspiracy theory. Somebody's trying to take our jobs away, but this is not how they're going to do it. They're going to start with this, and then they're going to present something else. Yeah, it's like, you know, you want to work the land without a tractor. I don't think anybody wants to go back to those years anymore now that it's been tested as a theory. Another is AI reading radiology reports to match annotations for self-supervision. The reports are out there, they're handwritten, artificial intelligence reads them, and it produces diagnostic labels for the images, and it's very good. I mean, you know, it really works for other AIs that read the images with annotations and produce the ability to assist. GE Healthcare uses a lot of that technology in real life, and it works really well supporting doctors. And a third example is to participate in double reading of mammography to reduce variability between radiologists in diagnostic accuracy. Now, if you ask these drafts, these digital radiologists to work together, to collaborate, then you're going to end up with a nice bunch of people working together to support you. Focusing on narrow fields and simple targets with good clinical trial results. And the second tool we need to deploy is to use telehealth to lead digital inclusion. For example, hospital at home. There are studies that show that hospital at home works really, really well for acute care patients. In the States, in many different European countries and other jurisdictions, and we don't need to be in the hospital for certain conditions in certain parts of our acute care. It doesn't have to be long-term care. But we need telehealth for that, and if we support such new care models, expanded care models, it means that we can have access to better data. And finally, support designs for access to care and improve patient experience pathways. So get patients involved. They're not going to participate if we don't get them involved. So my key points today are AI is the third science research field. It's as simple as that. So it helps us to research not artificial intelligence, but the third science. So in this case, healthcare. Second, it's an RPA niche, so it's a robotic process automation niche. It's a very small market for artificial intelligence, but it automates things. This is what we've seen from artificial intelligence until now. LLMs help focus deep learning on validating downstream knowledge and proximal tasks. So simple things. We can use those large language models that perform really well in terms of that diagram to give us the power to focus where we want to focus with data and produce good clinical results. They set a new paradigm, and the new paradigm is about continual, participatory, adaptive, collaborative, open AI learning. My bet, this is not going to go away. We're going to see this as a permanent way of doing things, and this is great news. And we need to modernize the clinical trials industry to follow the pace. Support real-world data with policy and standards, and instill a new governance culture to lead social change. Now, there are some policy recommendations there. I'm just going to say that I saw this by accident this morning. I just put the two layers together, and I realized we need to regulate collaboration, standardize our ability to focus, finance participation, and govern for affordance. I promise you this is a complete accident. I didn't design this that way, but life has a way to lead us in observations. And when I talk about governance for affordance, I'm talking about developing evidence-based reimbursement policies, for example, for hospital-at-home services. We don't have that. Germany is trying to do that a little bit globally. United States is walking backward because they're not supporting telehealth anymore. So a lot of providers in the States and HMOs, they try to find new ways to reimburse technologies. They call them digital health technologies instead of telehealth because it was a COVID-19 measure. That's something we need to consider anyway. I don't know how this happened. So these are a number of standards that we need to develop in order to go forward. One of them is data-coupled collaboration and recycling, our ability to share insights across different specialties. Advanced privacy protection regulation. I recently read a fantastic paper about how GDPR can be extended to reflect the idea of multi-ownership. So it doesn't mean that if my data is looked at by different controllers, there can't be 2 or 3 or 5. And that's how we get collaboration to work. And I was giving evidence in a UK Parliament session, an all-party parliamentary session last week, and this member of Parliament asks me, so what you're saying is that the GDPR is enough, that we have the regulation in place to go forward? I said, yes, we do. Now, you should have seen his face. He was so happy about the fact that the solutions are there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We just need to make sure that we learn how to use the tools to our advantage. There's a new UK initiative about international data transfers. It's a massive opportunity to get people to work together across jurisdictions. It doesn't mean we're going to violate privacy regulation. It just means that we need to get those laws in place that create data silos out of the way, find ways in which we can look after global health. Embed, expand evidence standardization practices. There's an example, something in the States called minimal common oncology data elements. Not very well known. It's a recent thing. We need more of that. Personalized disease models. Consider use case gold standards. For example, EU MDR or software as a medical device. We don't have gold standards. I think we need them. We need people to learn from each other about how people manage to produce innovation. Expand access with new care models. Hospital at home is an umbrella term. There's a lot more there. Modernize health technology assessment and evidence practices. We are designing an experiment now with some companies in the States on the basis of micro-randomization trials. The idea is that you have innovation that has to do with the pharma industry and with digital means. And if you use them together, you can actually engage patients to control their own results through patient-reported outcomes. It means you don't have to go through those super lengthy and expensive randomized control trials. And just the final slide, and thank you for your patience. I realized I really ran out of time, is how do we cooperate along the artificial intelligence continuum? So I talked about the ecosystem, but this is the trick. This is 20 years of experience. I think I've been working for 20 years to tell you what I told you today and produce this. This is the essence of this, that if we recycle the data, if we find a way to share the insights. Yeah. So my son the other day was saying, "Hey, Dad, why is this bin called waste?" He's bilingual. He was trying to translate it in Greek and English, and I was thinking, "Okay, don't say the wrong thing." And I said to him, "Waste, because it's waste. Plastic and paper, the other bins, have value. So we're wasting data right now. We need to stop doing that. We need to start recycling data." So what will we get? We can cooperate for scale through telehealth and regulatory enablement, and cooperate for scope, cross-valuation, so one device helping to evaluate another one. This is where we're now, innovation silos. We need to reach new populations with telehealth, new impacts with cross-valuation. So LLMs assisting different AI technologies working together, yeah? And then we can reach new populations and impacts. That's our opportunity to get technology into healthcare with clinical impact. Thank you. Look forward to your questions if we have time for those who... Thank you.
Thank you, Dimitrios, for your very insightful talk. Here is a certification. It's a certificate of
That's very kind of
appreciation
you.
for your engagement at DSC Europe 23. Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Thank you for inviting me here, and thank you
course.
for your patience.
Thank you.